This was the stupidest thing I've ever seen. I mean, this was the stupidest thing I've ever seen. From beginning to end, this episode was nothing but a series of plot holes. Just one plot hole after another. How can you have a story that's nothing but holes? The Doctor's trapped in a room for weeks, and he has his sonic screwdriver with him. It's not like a fancy alien prison cell. No, it's just a room in Victorian England with a lock on the door and some shackles set up. Now, at the time, the Doctor he's half petrified. He's all red-skinned, and that makes him all Frankensteinian, so he can't quite move right. But his clothes were in a neatly folded pile right next to him the whole time, because the person who put him in the cell, for some reason, instead of just throwing away his clothes, they put them in the cell with him. And in his pocket was his sonic screwdriver. And as we all know, the whole point of the sonic screwdriver is to unlock things. But no, the Doctor is just sitting there moaning for weeks, apparently crapping in a corner, waiting for someone to come along to rescue him, even though he's got the sonic screwdriver right there. Now, like I said, he can't get around very well. He's half petrified. But still, he doesn't need someone that badly. I mean, the person who rescues him, Jenny, she comes along, she opens the door, and he stumbles out. He leans on her while he walks down the hallway to this magic machine which fixes him, because all he needs to do is press a button on the sonic screwdriver, and it fixes everything. So, but did he need someone to lean on that badly? He could have gotten out of there and stumbled down the hall, or how about this? Why not crawl on his hands and knees? I mean, we can see that he can reach all the way across the prison cell, so it's not like he's shackled so that he can't get to the sonic screwdriver, and he can get down on his hands and knees on his stomach because he reaches out under the doggy door while he's trying to get out. Ugh. Stupid episode. Man, I like the last two episodes. Journey to the Center of the TARDIS and Hyde. For one thing, they had great characters. This episode has no characters. It has paper dolls. The closest we get to a real character is Ada, the blind girl. And even there, her resolution is just whatever. It's like, okay, so it begins with the Doctor trapped in a jail cell for weeks, even though he has easy access to his sonic screwdriver. Maybe he figured he'd use it as an excuse to get some thinking done. And he and Clara arrived in Victorian England by accident, of course, because he's a total screw-up who can't do anything right. He even throws a little temper tantrum when he realizes he's landed in the wrong place again, because that's all he's good for. He's a clown. And they get onto the trail of these mysterious crimson corpses which have been turning up all over England, because apparently the villains in this show thought that it was better to throw out all their failed experiments rather than just, say, burning them or piling them in a room or digging a hole and throwing them in it or chopping them up and feeding them to the poor or doing anything to keep themselves from being discovered. No, they're just throwing all these red bodies out into the streets. And sure enough, the Doctor gets his stupid ass kidnapped almost immediately, and they try to kill him by dunking him in this red venom, which I don't know, I guess they're experimenting on people with it to make sure it's as deadly as possible. So they've got whole lines of people that are just dipping into this stuff, which apparently it does not leave any residue or stain on clothing, whatever. But it doesn't kill the Doctor because he's a Time Lord. And Ada, who is Miss Gillyflower's blind daughter, notices that the Doctor is alive while they've got him stacked on the pile of bodies, sort of. And she rescues him by secretly tossing him into this locked room, locking him in, and feeding him under the doggy door. And she calls him Monster. She's got sort of a I will love him and pet him and I will call him mine thing going with him. And this endears her to the Doctor for some reason. Okay, but anyway, while the Doctor's incapacitated, right, Madame Vastra gets on the trail. Now, Madame Vastra is a Silurian. She's a lizard woman who comes from an ancient civilization from before the dawn of time, and she has a samurai sword, and she's a lesbian, and she has breasts for some reason. I thought that was primarily a mammalian trait, but shows what I know. And she's the great detective. Yes, she's apparently the actual person that Sherlock Holmes is based on. Yeah, right. And she eats people. And I'm just listing out these character traits because that's all she is, really. She's a collection of informed character traits. She's not actually a character herself. She's basically a bunch of cool concepts sort of mushed into a clay ball. She has a maid who is also her wife. Yeah, she managed to get married somehow in Victorian England to a girl. And this girl, Ginny, she's her maid, and she whips off her maid outfit in times of need, and she's got a cat suit on, and she's like a ninja. And they have a butler who is a Sontaran named Strax. He's the comic relief. And he's always going on about alien weaponry and tactics and how they can best attack their enemies, and that's his whole shtick, and it never changes. Okay, I'm gonna try and get this to work. I hope it works. You can't tell, but on my side of things, I have been trying to finish this rant over and over again. My camera keeps eating my footage. I've been all sorts of clever and funny, but it keeps eating my footage, and it's killing me. Okay, though, I'm gonna try and... I'm just gonna try and... get things straight. Alright. You ever get the feeling that a bag of chips is staring at you? I just can't work with it in my line of sight. Okay. Where was I? Right, okay. Madame Vastra. God, this is like... this is like the 12th time I've gone over this same ground. God, I hope my camera doesn't eat the footage this time. Alright. Madame Vastra and the Paternoster gang. I hate these guys. It's like... You know why I like the last few episodes of Doctor Who? Because they had characters in them. And not even regular characters. Just, this used to be part of the charm of Doctor Who. Not just the places that the Doctor and his standard issue companion would go visit, but the people that they would meet. And the people in the last few episodes had their own story arcs. They developed, they had flaws which they had to overcome. Madame Vastra and crew do not have flaws. Let's recall the Talons of Wing Chiang, another classic Doctor Who story. Also set in Victorian England. And in this story, the Doctor happens upon a couple of misfit Englandians, just some regular guys. One's a straight man, the other's a kind of carnival barker, and these guys get swept up in the adventure, and they have such repartee, they have such charm, they have such charisma. These two regular guys, they're hapless, and they're in way over their heads, but they have such chemistry that they've endured beyond that one character arc that they were in. And even today, they have a series of audio novels that has been spun off from Doctor Who, and as I understand it, it's still very popular, fairly popular. I mean, it must be if it's still going. But that goes to show just how much you can do with a limited amount of screen time. That's no excuse for not giving your characters character. As it is, Vastra and Jenny and Strax, they're not characters. All they are, really, is what a kid does when he plays with different action figures in his room. If they had a fourth member in their gang, it would probably be a robot that turns into a car. We don't know anything about them. All we know is that Vastra was a Silurian warrior who was revived in a subway excavation. And for some reason, she's now a detective in Victorian England. We don't know why she's a detective, why she feels the need to fight crime, what makes her a great detective, whether her intellect is something native to the Silurians or whether it's something unique to her. We don't know what Ginny sees in her or what she sees in Ginny. I just get the feeling that they just are the way they are because it all sounded cool to make them that way. We don't know what got them to that point. Neither her or Ginny ever make mistakes. They don't demonstrate temper or weakness. I think it's a bit of the Mary Sue syndrome raising its ugly head again. You would think that life would be exceptionally difficult for them, that they would have had to have overcome many challenges to spit in the face of the rigid cultural taboos of Victorian England, but no. They seem utterly unashamed. You would think that it would be a difficult time and place to live in for people with something to hide. And you'd be right, except Madame Vastra does not hide. At all. She really doesn't. In fact, she goes out of her way to explain to everyone she meets that she is a prehistoric lizard woman. She wears a heavy black veil, but every scene she's in, she whips it off to whoever she's talking to, and she makes sure to point out that she is a lizard woman, even when they offer perfectly reasonable explanations for her. Like a Scotland Yard detective will be congratulating her on solving another case and catching the villain, and he'll mention in passing, by the way, I hope your skin condition clears up. And she will correct him. Oh, it's not a skin condition. I'm a lizard woman from prehistory, and this is my wife. Alright, urban legends tend to get started very easily. People talk about unusual things. Yeah, a plaster cast of a big foot and some footage of a guy in a monkey suit walking out of the woods. We've got Bigfoot. A psycho goes around murdering people in Whitechapel, and according to this show, gets eaten by Madame Vastra, the great detective. And that's Jack the Ripper, an enduring legend. A few lights in the sky, UFOs, people talk about it for years. This show wants us to swallow, and I have swallowed a lot for this show, but this show now wants us to swallow that no one cares about a talking lizard woman, a lesbian lizard woman with a samurai sword who has a wife who's a maid who has a ninja cat suit on, and they have a butler who has a potato head who's from a warrior race and shoots his ray gun every chance he gets. Okay, if she's not hiding at all, where's Torchwood? You know, that shadowy government organization which has been very firmly established in Doctor Who as being a serious threat to extra-normal life forms in the show. That was founded just before Madame Vastra's time. The whole point of them is to hunt down strange creatures in England. So, what, do they not care about Madame Vastra, the great detective? I would care. And I still care. I want to know, because like I said, it's a cool concept. And a Victorian lizard adventuress with a ninja maid for a wife and an alien warrior for a butler. I mean, that could be really awesome if the writers didn't insist on building them on such shaky ground. Why don't they give them something more? Why don't they just get the feeling that when the writers of this show make a character who they really love, and they want other people to love them, they forget that that character is supposed to have things wrong with them. They're supposed to have problems that need to be overcome. It's not about just showing up every now and then and being cool. we're not that shallow. At least I'm not. Maybe other people are. Like I said, this episode scored pretty highly in the polls. But anyway, so you see what I mean when I say that this episode is just a series of holes. At any rate, Madame Vastra takes it upon herself to investigate the dead red bodies that have been left around by the villainous organization which centers around Sweetville. Sweetville is a gated community founded by the evil, ultra-conservative Miss Gillyflower, played by the ex-Emma Peel. And she plays it very well. She's still a good actress. She's exactly what the role asks of her. Now, Sweetville is, it's sort of a joint operation, apparently. People ask Miss Gillyflower what inspired her to start this community, which, for her, is just for the cream of the crop of the conservative elite in England. See, I'll just spoil it for you if you haven't seen it. I don't care if you have or not. She's one of those Noah's Ark type villains who wants to scour the earth clean and replace it with her perfect society. It's nothing you haven't seen a million times before. And she's done this with the help of a silent partner, Mr. Sweet. And people ask her, well, who is this Mr. Sweet? Oh, he's my silent partner, you see. He helped me to build all of this. And will Mr. Sweet be joining us for dinner? See, at home, when it's just her and her blind daughter, she's set out a table setting for Mr. Sweet. No, Mr. Sweet won't be joining us for dinner today. And of course, as you know, obviously Mr. Sweet is some kind of creature or a deformed thing, and sure enough, it turns out that Mr. Sweet is actually an ancient leech, also from prehistory, like Madame Vastra, who survived to present day and has attached itself to her chest, and is apparently intelligent enough for her to give it a name, I guess. I don't know if it inspired her to set about this plan to cause the apocalypse, except for her little gated community, which will somehow be self-sufficient. Not really explained, like a lot of things in this show. Or whether or not that was her idea. Either way, it's not really very clearly explained why the leech would want for this to happen, or why it's helping her, or why she even needs the identity of Mr. Sweet. Because people ask her, who is Mr. Sweet? She's created this fake identity around the worm. Why? Wouldn't it just be easier to pretend the worm didn't exist? Why does she need to go through all this trouble of creating a silent partner and setting up places for him at the table when she's never going to be able to show him to anyone? What's up with that? Well, anyway, Ginny infiltrates the colony, and she finds the doctor and rescues him because he really needed her to help him wobble down the hallway to this green pod, this pod with green lights, which he uses to cure himself with the sonic screwdriver, and he really needed her help to do that. Right, well, anyway, he does that, and from that point on, the doctor he acts really stupidly confident and upbeat. He acts like he's going to save the day. He acts like such a douche in this episode. He's always going up to the villain saying, all right, it's time for me to save the day. I'm going to beat you. You just watch it, Miss Gillyflower. I'm going to outwit you. And he doesn't do anything in this episode. The most he does is break a window. But anyway, they rescue Clara, who is also, she is such a non-entity. I find myself wanting to forget her name. Clara notices that one of the smokestacks at Sweetville, because it's like a factory complex, isn't producing smoke. And they go there and they find out that Miss Gillyflower has built a rocket. Yeah. And there's this tub of evil red juice. Apparently it's venom taken from Mr. Sweet. And apparently if they put that in the rocket and shoot it off, it's going to cause the apocalypse. Somehow. Just one jug of this red juice. Yeah. Right. Sure. That's going to end 99% of all life on Earth. Just that one jug. And the doctor announces, I have a plan. You want to know what the plan is? Well, I'll tell you later. But it's a great plan. Anyway, meanwhile, Miss Gillyflower is getting ready to launch the rocket, and she's got this this villain device set up behind a pipe organ in her room. she turns a few keys and it flips around and it's a control module for the rocket because she really needed that. Yeah, like all villains do. I mean, it doesn't matter that there was no one in the complex who would care. She has all these minions, but they're like zombified, and her daughter is blind. But no, I guess she needed to have something cool to unveil, even if it was only to herself. Of course, this brings me to another question. How did Miss Gillyflower make a rocket? I mean, these aren't aliens we're dealing with. This is Victorian England. Where did she get the know-how, and for that matter, where did she get the materials to make a functioning rocket? Where did she get the fuel? Did the worm tell her how to do it? That leech on her chest? How did they communicate? How would it know how to make a rocket? I mean, is it a little rocket scientist? As near as we can tell, it's just been slumming around the sewers for 1,000,000 years or so. There's no indication that it has this advanced intelligence. It just seems kind of weird. If it wanted to take over the world for whatever reason, wouldn't it start playing a slow game? Like perhaps, I don't know, try poisoning people slowly or spreading a virus or something? Where does the rocket come from? Alright, never mind. Somehow, Miss Gillyflower has built a rocket. So stupid. Well, anyway, needless to say, just as she's about to launch it, the doctor bursts into the room, and you think this might be the doctor's big moment. He tries to talk her down. I kept wishing that someone would just headbutt the old lady, or just... because she really is despicably evil. But during the course of her villain monologue, the doctor says that it was her, actually, who blinded her daughter, Ada, who has been her accomplice all this time. And the evil old lady, she admitted, sometimes sacrifices must be made, Doctor. You remember the old days when there used to be villains who had a shred of originality? Neither do I. Anyway, Ada is just conveniently wandering by the room at this point. She's upset because her pet monster escaped, and she overhears this. And she's upset. She's like, "What? Is this true, Mother? Did you do this to me?" Well, who else would have done it, dumbass? I mean, how does she not know who blinded her? Wasn't she there? Wouldn't she have noticed if her mother was experimenting on her and melted her eyes? How does she not know that her mother blinded her when it was her mother who personally blinded her? How is this a surprise? Apparently she was under the impression that someone had thrown acid at her, a drunk or something in a bar, or maybe an abusive father. I forget the story that was given, but did she block it out? I mean, that might be a reasonable explanation, but the show doesn't tell us. It just seems kind of inexplicable that she would not already know who blinded her. She goes nuts and she starts beating her mother with her seeing eye cane, and the doctor waves his arms ineffectually. He can't even stop a blind girl from beating up an old lady. That's how useless he is in this episode. But you see what I mean? The camera keeps cutting off. Alright, I'm gonna try to get through this. Miss Gillyflower whips out a gun from out of her sleeve or something, puts it to her daughter's head, and backs out. "Nobody try to stop us, or the girl gets it." And the doctor, that's when he breaks the window, which is what I told you about, which is like the one thing he actually does in this episode. They race to the missile silo, and of course there's an auxiliary launch switch, which was built for some reason right next to the damn thing on a stairwell. Okay, that's some kind of clever. I don't know if it's good clever, but anyway, the Miss Gillyflower launches the rocket. "It seems I've outsmarted you, eh, Doctor?" Well, no, because turns out Madame Vastra and Ginny are holding the jug of red juice. That was the doctor's big plan. They saw the jug of red juice. he told them to go grab it. That was the whole plan. Just grab the juice and let the rocket go off. Yeah, they really needed the doctor to do that, right? And meanwhile, during all this, Strax, the butler, who is remember an alien warrior, has been wandering around lost because he's trying to get to Sweetville, and he's about to shoot his horse with his ray gun, which is kind of funny. But again, that's all Strax is, kind of funny. That's the most you can say about him. He doesn't have any depth beyond that. Much like Madame Vastra and Ginny don't really have any gravitas beyond their cool factor. Strax is about as shallow a character as you can meet. And true to form, comic relief attracts comic relief, because while he's lost, there's this little kid who asks him, this little street urchin asks him, "Pardon me, sir, are you lost? Do you need directions?" And the kid gives him precise directions in this very robotic tone of voice to his destination. You know what the kid's name is? Thomas Thomas. Get it? Like Tom Tom? This is the sort of thing I would find acceptable on, say, Hercules, The Legendary Journeys. That show was just goofy enough to get away with stuff like that. But this is Doctor Who, alright? Like I said, higher standards, please. And Strax shows up, and he's shooting his laser gun everywhere, like he did do earlier in the episode when they were raiding the place. And now he shoots it down into the chimney where the rocket went out of, and Miss Gillyflower falls to her doom. And Ada, who is there, the blind girl, she lets her mother die with a final screw you, and the doctor's like, well, what am I going to do with that worm, because it's slowly crawling away, and of course Ada kills it. Again, you see that coming from a mile away. Now, at this point, Ada has shown herself to be a very damaged individual. I mean, if she wasn't before, and she really kind of was, she is now. You would think she would need a lot of therapy to overcome everything she's been through, because she's clearly emotionally unstable, and that was before being exposed to the revelation that her mother had gruesomely abused her. So, it's the end of the episode, and the day has been saved by being saved. And it's time for the Doctor and Clara to go their separate ways from the other members of the cast, though the Doctor and Clara are apparently going to take a break from each other. And it's time for them to bid farewell, not just to the enemies they've vanquished, but to the friends they've made, like Ada, who saved the Doctor's life. Granted, immediately afterwards, she locked him in a room and left him screaming for weeks on ends, but the Doctor still considers her to be a good friend. He gives Ada a peck on the cheek and tells her that he thinks she'll have a spectacular life. She's gonna be just fine. Yeah. I mean, maybe he can see something I can't, because from my point of view, Ada seems like a very damaged individual, like I've said. I would think that she's become only more so after the traumatic events of the past day or so, that she would probably need extensive therapy. But setting that aside, maybe she's on an even keel now. Maybe she's gotten over the issues which led to her isolation and so forth. I feel like we're forgetting something. Can you guess what it is? I know that Ada is blind, but she wasn't blind to what was happening. She actually participated in the systematic murder of dozens, if not hundreds, of innocent people. Didn't she? She was in the factory while it was happening. I mean, the reason she noticed the Doctor was because she was hanging around the pile of dead bodies and she noticed his hand was twitching. It's not like she didn't notice that her mother was on a killing spree. They had assembly lines full of people, full of guys in their underwear getting dunked into vats of red poison. That just seems like the sort of thing that shouldn't be overlooked, you know? I mean, is anyone going to call the police about any of this? Seems to me like Ada should be headed for an asylum for the criminally insane. But apparently the doctor and everyone else feels like she's paid her dues to society. Okay, fine. Fine. It's not the first time that Doctor Who has done this, where the Doctor's met a bad guy or a minion to the bad guy and just decided to let bygones be bygones. Alright. I'm sure that the families of all those murder victims would be happy to know that this woman who stood by while she listened to the screams and moans of all the people who suffered under her mother's nefarious regime is getting off scot-free. I'm sure no one would care. Hey, Doctor, guess what? I have an idea. Since you and Ada are such good friends, why don't you do her a favor and go to the future and get her new eyes? I mean, if she's a good guy, there's no reason not to, right? I mean, we saw that this can be done in the last episode. Remember? There was this guy who'd lost his eyes and had them replaced. Oh, and don't give me a line about future technology contaminating the past, because there is a Santran warrior in full armor shooting his ray gun every chance he gets, and a lizard woman scandalizing everyone she meets, and no one in England gives a single damn. It's not like Torchwood goes looking in corners for these sorts of things, right? Alright. Never mind. The Doctor and Clara go home, and it turns out that the kids that Clara is supposed to have been babysitting while she was off jaunting through time and space have, by some mysterious provocation, taken to looking her up. I don't know what got them onto this kick, but they've been finding pictures of her all throughout history on the internet. Well, you know, that's understandable. I mean, written records were kept and photographs were taken, so if someone was popping up at various points in history, it'd be obvious, right? Though I guess no one thought to take pictures or even write about the talking lizard woman.